cities of New York and Washington, D.C. and Chicago are so large and have the infrastructure that's available, that they have the capability of accommodating the number of migrants that are being sent better than these other cities that you talked about. There will be other cities in the future that also will be on the receiving end of migrants, because we will continue to have to move migrants because Joe Biden continues to allow more illegal immigrants to come.
Why is the border more overwhelmed under your watch, Mr. President?
Because there are 3 countries that are never have, there are fewer immigrants coming from Central America and from Mexico. This is a totally different circumstance. What's on my watch now is Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. And the ability to send them back to those states is not rational. You could send them back and have them like we're working with Mexico and other countries to see if we can stop the flow. But that's the difference.
As we continue our hour on America's immigration crisis, we take a look now at sanctuary cities. It's a phrase that we hear over and over. What exactly does it mean? In sanctuary cities, local law enforcement will offer little or no cooperation with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Under the 10th Amendment, states and cities do not have to enforce federal law. So when an immigrant here illegally is stopped by police for anything from a traffic violation to a violent felony, law enforcement in a sanctuary city will not honor ICE requests to extend an illegal migrant's detention up to 48 hours to give federal agents time to come get them. Several reasons the sanctuary cities cite for that. They say if police report every illegal immigrant they stop, people in the U.S. illegally will likely try to avoid any interactions with police and may not report if they've been victimized or if they've witnessed a crime. Jails are also not usually reimbursed for holding these migrants for ICE. Dozens of cities across the U.S. have been identified as sanctuary cities, including New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, D.C. And while we usually hear the term sanctuary city, ICE identifies 11 entire states as offering sanctuary. But Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says the federal government needs help from local law enforcement, especially when dealing with someone in the country illegally. In particular, someone who's committed violent crimes.
I do not believe that that individual should be released into the community so that ICE's fugitive operations has to go into the community to find him, apprehend him, and place him in detention pending removal. I think that the state facility should turn that individual over to ICE directly. And I think that is a public safety need.
Joining me again, John Sandwig, former acting director of ICE during the Obama administration, and Ron Vitello, former U.S. Border Control and former acting director of ICE during the Trump administration. Ron, are these sanctuary cities and states a source of enormous frustration for ICE?
Well, it's putting us all at risk, right? Think about who they're protecting. Someone who came across the border illegally, right, committed a federal crime, and then found themselves in a city like Los Angeles or like New York, and then committed another crime, forcing the police to take them off the street, to take them and put them in jail. And then when it's time for them to be released under whatever the circumstance is, they refuse to call ICE so that they can be picked up and removed from the country for the crime that they committed by being here illegally, or maybe the conviction that they had for the state or local crime. So this puts us all at risk. It's a terrible idea. We've talked a lot about incentives on today's program, and this is an incentive for people. That's, California, 26% of the migrant population in the United States. The entire state is a sanctuary. It's a bad idea. It puts us all at risk.
John, do you agree or disagree on that?
Well, look, I think there's certain sanctuary policies that go way too far. I don't think there's if a local state says, hey, by arresting everybody who comes into our jails or everybody we encounter, it creates a chilling effect amongst victims. Victims are scared to call the police or report crimes because there's this perception that's formed that they're going to be arrested. I think reasonable restrictions then on cooperation with ICE are perfectly appropriate. The problem is, though, when you get cases in states where they've implemented strict bans where someone could be convicted of murder or a violent felony assault, and they will not cooperate with ICE, they will not honor a detainer, it creates real officer safety issues for ICE because now they have to go out in the streets and take that person into custody. So reasonable, limited restrictions don't bother me as much, but these more kind of over-the-top restrictions really are a problem.
So, in effect, we have dozens or even hundreds of immigration policies across the country. I mean, Ron, is that sort of where we're at?
Yeah, again, this puts us all at risk. I'm not the lawyer on this panel, but that's nullification. It's a federal crime to be in the country illegally. And states and local jurisdictions should not have the discretion to ignore that or nullify federal law.
What do you make, John, of the argument that offering sanctuary status allows people who are here illegally the more of an incentive to report a crime or to be a witness to something? And that's always the argument that's made. I just sometimes wonder how significant that is, or if it's just an argument that's being made.
You know, Dan, look, I think that that's probably a legitimate argument. And when I was the acting ICE director, I heard from a lot of chiefs who would make that argument. You know, they say, hey, look, the perception that we're cooperating with ICE creates a chilling effect on reporting. So I think we need to be sensitive to those when the chiefs of police and the professionals are saying they have some concerns here. But that doesn't extend to people with serious felony records or violent felonies. So again, look, there was a big issue during the Obama administration, just back then as well. The bottom line is if there are reasonable restrictions, well, let's say someone is pulled over and arrested for driving without a license. It's not the biggest deal, but when it's more serious felonies, it's a serious problem.
Yeah. Former President Trump tried to take federal funding away from sanctuary cities. That was ruled to be unconstitutional and rescinded under Biden. But I wonder, Ron, would more police and sheriff's departments be willing to help ICE if they were reimbursed?
I think that there should be incentives, but they also should just be following the rule of law, right? These people are here illegally. They've committed other crimes in that same jurisdiction. Why wouldn't they want to just pick up the phone? When I was a line agent in Laredo, when I started my career, I could write a detainer on the hood of my car and hand it to the deputy sheriff that was picking up somebody that was wanted in their jurisdiction. Yeah. And when that person was adjudicated out of the county court, they called us. It's just that simple. All you have to do is follow the law. We're not asking them to do anything that they're not already doing, right? They took that person's freedom away and put them in a jail somewhere. We just want to be there when they get let out. ICE wants to be there when they get let out.
John, I got 30 seconds for each of you. Biggest sort of solution as to what can be done today, realistically, putting Congress aside? Is there a theme? Is it disincentives? Like what incentive? What is the number one thing, John, as far as you're concerned?
Dan, we have to quickly process these claims and then remove people who don't present a valid claim. Only through removals will we be the deterrent to slow the flow. So look, I hear Ron, he wants the laws changed. It's just, in my mind, it's not a practical reality. Congress is not going to act. We need to surge the rule of law, remove people after they have a chance to present their claim. Only then will this slow down.
Ron, final thought on that as well.
Well, you can remove people if they're in custody or if they're in a detention center. So imagine the resources when you have no deterrence at the southwest border. Imagine the kinds of resources you would need to detain everybody that's coming. We had 2.5 million encounters this year so far, or last fiscal year. So that's, yeah, I get it. We got to fix the incentives, but you got to start somewhere. You got to have a diplomatic approach. You got to have an operational approach. You have to have a resource approach. And then again, like, you know, we don't want to give Congress the credit that they can fix this, but it's got to start with policy. You got to have a will to control that border. And we're obviously seeing that this administration has no desire to do that.
I'm out of time. Ron, who is whose boss when you guys work together?
I'm not sure.
All right. Ron Vitello and John Sandwick, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Great stuff. That does it for us tonight. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.